to go into is Suha. I don't know about you, but one big thing I noticed in all of my classes is the majority of guys in my
Yeah.
classes. So
Mm.
my question to you is, what kind of led you into STEM and engineering, considering how male dominant the field is?
Yeah, okay, so I can talk about that. So, as I mentioned before, my high school was really STEM oriented. There were actually a lot of women in my school, like in every single class I had. There was never really like imbalance. There was always like a lot of girls to guys. Like it was pretty even. I would like to say like there was in maths and sciences and like the physics, like all the classes we had a really good balance. But it was a little bit of a shock when I came to university and when I was walking around campus, I saw a lot of women, but then when I entered class, there really wasn't that many. But what I mean, that was just like I think having the drive to like wanting to be in STEM is like was basically enough for me. Like I've always really had a passion to help people, and I think that now that times are really rapidly evolving, um just technology would is like the most easy way or one of the most versatile ways you can benefit somebody's life.
Right.
And I kind of do want to, like maybe like break down those barriers. Like I just feel like like number definitely power. I think power can come in numbers.
Right.
So I think just being in this field can maybe someday maybe inspire somebody to
100%. 100%.
maybe come into like get more of a balanced field. I think the input of our like of women in STEM is really important, and yeah, we can make a difference maybe in these few decades to come.
Okay, I 100% agree with you. I do believe that we need to we need to definitely break that stigma of like, we definitely need more diversity, and with diversity comes more minds, and with more minds comes with more ideas. Kind of it kind of helps, especially in the engineering field, to have more minds and more opinions and more fields of view to promote different ideas. So
Yeah.
I like how you mentioned the power in numbers and how you want to break the stigmatism. Not sorry, not the
Mhm.
stigmatism, the stigma. um, my question to you is: Have you faced any limitations in the field?
uh yeah, I definitely have in some cases, but I've also, I mean, it's just not me, right? It's like a lot of women in general have faced some like just some limitations. There's definitely like for me at least, there's like a cultural like not stereotype, but more of a limitation there. It's just like a lot of people in my community are just like there's just women don't really do long-term careers or careers that do require, like to become a professional engineer, I think it takes around 12 years if I'm right. I don't know, like something around that. So it's just like there are a lot of cultural stereotypes that come with that, and then on top of it there's just some when I when I entered, I remember this one class we had in engineering, like Renaissance engineering. There was this one guy, and he did, I think we were talking about this very issue about how why women drop out of the STEM fields or why they don't feel like they belong, and he raised his hand and said something about how women are not capable of being at at that level, and I just thought that was very like degrading because it's just like there were so many women in like there weren't obviously a lot, but like there were women in that class sitting there eager to learn, but there are people that think like that, and you kind of have to always be not ready to fight, but like you kind of always have to be there to defend yourself in that field
Right.
because you kind of always have something to prove, like I know like it's not easy to be in the field in general for everyone, but like it's just an added pressure on top of it that you always have to prove that you can do more or you can do as much as a man can.
100%. I definitely agree with you because, yeah, there are a lot of people in the field with that kind of mindset, and
Yeah.
there you obviously, as you said, will kind of have to, I guess, compete to that level,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we always do have to compete at that level. Like just like go out of our way to show that we can actually think at the same level men can.
Right.
And you know, we're also like there's also that like there's so many problems. Like there's a pay gap, and then there's like sometimes you get profiled on jobs like, oh, we can't hire her because, you know, she might want to have children in the future, so there's no point. Or like, you know,
Right.
there's just
Like my question, I have a question to ask you, Suha. Like
yeah.
I see the limitations you're explaining, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you personally seen that as an obstacle in your learning experience, like in a class setting? Like, you know how, because like I'm personally want to believe that you need like the best environment to like thrive and to learn, right? Something.
Mm.
So do you think like a guy like that making such a comment, right? And having the knowledge of the fact that there are people in your learning experience, your age, around you that have this kind of a mentality, right? Does that like become an obstacle or bring you down in your learning overall learning experience, would you say?
Yeah, it actually, yeah, it does. See, the thing is, yeah, like I guess in that case, it kind of puts not only me, but like any woman in the field, like at a disadvantage because at that point, you are balancing the fact that you're meeting the expectations, right? Like, you know, doing what you have to do, but then you also have to go out of your way to do more, like to prove that you can compete or you are even better. And you know, like it's not only that if you do prove that you're better, like a lot of people might look at that as, oh, she's arrogant, or like it's like either one or the other, you know, like you have to there's like so many stereotypes, like you have to be competitive but you can't be arrogant, you have to be assertive but you can't be, you know, you can't be aggressive. It's just finding the middle where it takes a lot of experience. It's like an acquired skill kind of like, and it's kind of sad that we have to still do that now, if that makes sense.
Kind of like finding that right balance between those
Yeah,
not being too aggressive, but being aggressive enough to stand your ground type of.
exactly. And sometimes like there are times when your opinion isn't that valid. Like sometimes people like to just like, I remember this one time I was in this group and people, I mean, like it's not, I don't know if it was intentional, obviously, like I'm sure sometimes people don't have a malintent, but like there have been times where, not specifically in school, but like, you know, you get the, how about you write, you know, like if you're writing on a big chart paper, like how about you write and we'll give you the ideas. Like no,
Right.
I can also contribute like these, it doesn't have, you know, like they're just like you're given like tasks that are more stereotypical or like quote unquote not important, but like just you're undermined.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
Just for like the sake of having you in the group type of like mindset,
Yeah.
right?
And then I've also seen sometimes like teachers do is like, oh, you need to have like in middle school, I remember they're like, oh, you have to have one girl in your group, right? That was kind
Yeah.
of jarring in a sense that like it's a good thing, but like why you like calling them out in a sense?
Yeah.
They should have their own willingness to create their own group or something, right? So
Right.
we don't need to have that like I guess that we're like it needs to be diverse, but it needs to be their own willingness to do it too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like as you said, like stereotypical idea, I
I've
guess, yeah.
noticed I've noticed
I
that a
guess
lot.
it's,
Like I just have one thing to add to that. Like I've seen that even
mhm,
in high school, like because like our classes used to be like some of our classes were like four guys, 18 girls, right? Some classes were completely opposite,
mhm.
right? Because
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I've noticed that. So like my like you know like because like when we see people like this in uni nowadays that make such comments, like we tend to think like do they not have respect for women or like who, like, what kind of, like, how were they raised? Like, we question those kind of things, right? So if
Mhm.
like, now the question I was thinking about, like, the concept, like, the side I was thinking about is, if from high school, from middle school, from elementary school, like, kids are brought up in a way where they put in a setting where even teachers are making such comments, right? Who is to, like, really blamed there? Because, like, yes, on one side, uh people are fighting for gender equality, for, like, the equal say, the equal pay, which still isn't established to this day, right, in the working field. But at the same time, in schooling, like, in areas where people are fed with the most information and knowledge as they grow up, like, they have, like, there are teachers like this with these kind of mindsets and these kind of comments, whether it be intentional or not intentional, right? Who is to, like, blame there?
I mean, like, see, the thing is, we've come a long, long way. I mean, women weren't even recognized under the law as human beings. I think I read that somewhere in history class a few years ago. But I think it's just those very views, right? Like those archaic, like that archaic mentality about just the imbalance between the two genders. Um, there there are many like accomplishments we've had, but I feel like because of those views, they're still very deeply embedded in our society of like what people can and can't do.
I think it happens a lot of fields as well. That's also concerning. Like many fields, like for example, like just an example out there, like the basketball scenario, right? Like the WNBA, you hear a lot about equal pay and like they don't get the respect they deserve, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's just concerning that it's happening in a lot of fields in a sense, right? Not just like engineering, like everywhere. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really concerning. Like even if we have come this far, like we should be going more ahead, not just like stopping here in a sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I think every field, like, see, the thing is, like, yeah, every field comes with a lot of limitations that are like also in society. Like, um, I remember I read this article like not long ago, like maybe a few weeks ago, where uh people were question because of this is very the question itself is kind of it's it has something to do with the imbalance where people were questioning why uh, women are not in the cooking. There's more men in the cooking industry than women. In the question itself, it's pretty sexist, but I don't know. I don't. It's like a good question, you know. Like, if society is so deeply sexist, then why? Like, this is that. It's that type of question. Like, why are men more in that field? But the one of the chefs was explaining that a lot of women can't be in the field because that whole just in general being in the food industry requires late night prep and stuff, so it's just like they're limited because of the time they have to go home. So a lot of women don't commit to that field because they are concerned about their safety. There's just like a lot of like limitations in that case too, so a lot of people just choose not like that's kind of the reason why sometimes women are limited to those fields, and that's probably why they don't get that step up, or they don't get to play on that even playing field because of it's just like I forgot what it's called, like a paradoxical cycle. It's like one or the other, like we explained earlier.
So, but considering everything that has happened, I also do believe that there is change being made, considering that there's so many organizations that empower women in STEM, empower women in engineering, and there's so many events that happen, especially in Canada, especially in our university itself, that empowers women to pursue STEM and pursue engineering more. And I believe a change is being made, even though it is slow, but I still believe a change is being made for the good. Do you agree?
I think, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Mebin. The thing is this though, like, the changes being made are slow because the generation behind us, at least, like we can refer
Mhm.
to, right? Like our parents' generation, for example, they have been brought up in that, like, let's say, stigma or the stereotypes, like, from their childhood, right? Now they might be in their 30s and 40s and 50s. So all, like, majority of their life, they have been brought up in those kind of like stigma, with those stigmas and like those things. Like, one of the things I wanted to mention before was, like, how nursing, for example, is like a field that is looked upon as a women's field, but now more guys are getting into it. Like one of my friends, he went into nursing, and like I saw the brown community, the way they reacted to that, because everyone expected him to go into becoming a doctor or like an engineer per se, right? The older generation has to change a lot more for the changes like that we're trying to implement to happen faster and to like become more settled. I wouldn't say settled, actually, to be more widespread throughout, right, all different fields. But like I believe in due time, like the changes will be made. It's just our generation has to put in more effort, right? It goes back into the point of how, like Suha mentioned again, the guy who made a response, someone maybe our age or a year older, right? If he has such a kind of mentality, that means we still need to do a lot of fixing in our generation itself, right? Before we try to make it before we try to like put it upon other generations.
Yeah,
and so
they're
on.
definitely I mean, yeah, that's like you said, there is a lot of change coming, but it's very, very slow. I think uh we kind of we do need to step it up and, like get it together more faster. Because the rise of more women being educated is, very high. It's growing a lot. By like literally there are so many people, so many women enrolling in universities, colleges, and education is becoming more accessible because of technology. So I think we need to break down those barriers and definitely close the gap between the two genders.